Yo, 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 welcome back to the Wrestling Strength Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Myers. And as always, the Wrestling Strength Podcast is brought to you by Max Effort Muscle. For all your supplement needs, for your apparel, you want that sick swag, go to maxeffortmuscle.com. All right, guys, got a very special guest today. I'm super pumped to have this guy on for a couple reasons, which I'll get into here in a second. If you've listened to the first few episodes I put out, Lance Palmer is a guy I've known for, 12, 15 years, whatever. Colin Moore, man, I've raised that kid since he was in diapers, or at least since he was, in high school. So these are guys I've known for a long time. The guy I got on here today, this is only my second time ever training with him. So I'm going to get to learn a lot about him today at the same time you guys are going to learn about him. I want you guys to welcome two-time NCAA All-American from the University of North Carolina and current freestyle extraordinaire, Evan Henderson. What's up, man?
Nothing much. I'm glad to be here. Had an awesome workout this morning with you. Kicked my butt a little bit. I've obviously seen the Instagram posts and all the other social media endeavors and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, now I'm in it. Now I'm here.
Now you're here.
Yeah.
So when you walked in the gym, did it feel the same way as it looks on the gram?
Yeah. No, it's the same vibe. And it's like, okay. You're immediately immersed into, all right, there's work to be done here, period.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I think that, especially say someone like you may have been, I've been familiar with you, obviously, following the freestyle scene. You've had battles with some of my guys over the years, and, maybe you've watched, some of the guys I've trained from the RTC. So you've seen the gym, you've seen me work or whatever. And I think, you probably had a similar experience as most people when they walk in here. It feels the way that it looks. It feels the way you expect it to. It's not like you walk in like, oh, I thought it was going to be, the workout would be tougher than this, or, oh, I guess in person the floor is a little bit shinier. No, it's grimy, it's dirty.
I like it. There's something to be had about being in that type of environment and what it cultivates and everything like that. It reminds me of what I grew up in and different rooms that I wrestled in and stuff like that. It's like the dingy. It's not dingy. It's like.
No, you ain't gonna hurt my feelings with that. No way.
Your feelings? Okay, it's the dinginess. It's like the sweats that's there. Like it's like a cast iron stove or a skillet that has that seasoned, and it's like it's the wear and tear and all the sweat and blood that's been worked out here is here. And it you get that when you walk into the room. So.
I couldn't have scripted a better response for you. And it probably sounds like I did because almost every wrestler that has ever walked into my gym, whether it's this one or the original old school gym, they immediately love it. And they all say the same thing. They say exactly what you just said. They say, this reminds me of my cousin's garage where my uncle trained us when we were young and taught us how to lift weights, and where we had our first wrestling mat, or maybe it was our school weight room, not the new one that the boosters built, but like the old one, the one that we trained in that, it smelled like sweat. You could see the hard work, and you went in and there was a certain feel that you had to go in and give everything that you had. It was just expected.
It's real. It's authentic. That's all there is to it.
So Evan, going back to what I said earlier about, some of the other guys I've had on here, guys I've been very familiar with, even, Romani, who, I haven't got to know until recently, but he's originally a Central Ohio guy. You're the first non-Central Ohio or non-Ohio native to come on the show. Mm-hmm. And you, Western PA guy.
Yep.
Come from the, that grimy blue collar Western PA, wrestling powerhouse area.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit. There's certain areas of the country that just are known for putting out, tremendous wrestlers. Obviously, Northeast Ohio has that. Central Ohio, I feel like we're improving here, but we're not quite there yet. And then, obviously, the Eastern PA area, and then definitely, Western Pennsylvania. And there's some other areas too, but we'll concentrate on Ohio and PA. Mm-hmm. What do you think makes it so special? First, I guess, tell us about where you're from, and then tell us why that's so special and how that crafted you into the wrestler you are.
So when I tell people like where I'm from, where I actually grew up, and so I was born in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, flood city. They had 3 major floods. My family was in 2 of them. But
which river is it on?
The Conemaugh.
Okay.
And there's like two rivers that come in, like Blacklick and Conemaugh come in, or I don't know exactly, but the Conemaugh is the one that's always been like that got flooded.
So real quick, the town that I grew up in, just right outside of Steubenville, it's on the Ohio River. Mm-hmm. The grade school that I went to in Empire, which is the grade school my dad went to back in the day, it's actually on stilts because back in the 50s, the river would flood every year before they put in the dam.
Yeah.
So like when you see the grade school, it literally sets up on stilts, like on these huge metal pillars. But anyway, go ahead.
But so like born there, and then about like actually family grew up even from where my mother and father both grew up within 10 minutes of where they are now. But we grew up in a little town, Armagh. Even though we have a different county address somehow, we grew up in Armagh, Pennsylvania, and it's like, you're like, where the hell is that at? And it's when you're driving between Pittsburgh and State College, and you're like, hey, where am I? That's where I live. That's literally how
it's the no man's land in between, right?
It's no man's land in between, exactly. The road's 22, and it's just like literally just miss it. It's farmland. It reminds me of like I'm driving out here this morning. I'm like, this kind of looks like where I like grew up at, and everything like that. But very small town. Growing up, graduating class is like between 50 to 100 kids at most.
Super small.
Super small. Everybody, and everything like that. But even though I went to high school there for 1 year, and then I transferred to a private school.
With the Kiski Prep, right?
With the Kiski Prep. So like I had that blue collar upbringing. With my dad's works construction and everything like that, and I was always on the job with him growing up and stuff like that. But got to high school, we were trying to find better opportunities, and it kind of led me to Kiski Prep. So
you were probably already pretty established on the the wrestling scene at that point, as a freshman in high school or whatever. What club did you come up through?
We went up through All American Wrestling Club with Rob Waller, and he did a fantastic job of exposing us to a lot of different college people. Like we had like obviously his son was a national champion. We had a lot of Oklahoma guys come through. Barry Davis would come. Like I'm talking like some old hats, like some people that get kind of out of the loop now, but they came up through and they had a big impact on me growing up, and just some of the styles that rubbed off on me. I'm like, okay, that's sort of, you go and look at them and they're, oh wait, look at Evan. He's kind of actually emulates that. And then later on into high school, we started going to Young Guns, just because it was a little bit more easy to access sometimes, just because of where Waller was located. Because we would travel when we were, when was it? Like when we started going in third grade, I think we'd go like 45 minutes to an hour down to Waller's practice and then back every day, that kind of thing. And then when we got into high school, like Jody started getting a little bit more predominant club at the time, and we started going there. And it was just easy because he actually grew up he had a club out of Central Cambria, which was 20 minutes away, which was a lot closer. So we started going there.
40-minute round trip instead of a 40-minute one way is a lot better.
And then when we start, you start getting a little older, you got friends, you got buddies going to these different clubs, and you're like, hey, let's go, to this club tonight, let's go to this place tomorrow and all that stuff. And then the same thing happened would be in the summers when we started being able to drive everywhere. It would be like, we'd be calling people and just finding mat rooms to wrestle in. I'd call, like, I remember there was a crew of us, so me, my brother, Bartoluzzi's, some of the guys at my school, and then some of these other guys that we just kind of stuck together and ran in a group. And it's like, if we didn't have a mat room, we'd find a mat room. We'd call people with like in close to Murraysville, which would be Franklin Regional. Spencer Lee's from. There was a couple guys with mat rooms there. We'd go call college or high school coaches. Hey, can you open up the mat room for us during the summer? So we just run all over the place trying to find places to wrestle. It's fun.
So do you think that's kind of a function of, number one, you just really loved to wrestle. You and your brother were just really into it. You think it was kind of just the culture of the area you were in, or you think it's maybe a symptom of being from a small town where there's not a lot to do, so you focus your energy on that?
I think it's like we focused our energy on that, but it was like it was cool to do for us. It was like it wasn't like we had a coach with us either. We just
wanted to do it.
We wanted to do it. We'd go and You know, I remember when I committed to UNC, I was after one of those type of workout sessions with these guys. You know, no coach, just I got a call and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm in, you know. And I kind of like went back and looked at the guys. Yeah, guys, I just committed to UNC, and everybody's like, heck yeah, you know, this is awesome. First one out of the group to commit to a D1 school, and then sure enough, my brother committed to UNC. Leidick went to Pitt. My other buddy went to Binghamton. We had a naval guy. We had like all these little, like everybody started finding their way into these D1 programs.
So basically, all those guys that were in that group ended up kind of filtering out to a D1 program somewhere.
Yeah. And so most of us still, well, not all of us, but a couple of us still wrestle today. So, I mean, Megaludis was in the group. We'd go to his place, you know. I still go to his place. Like, he hits me.
Because he's at Pitt now, right?
Yeah, he's at Pitt. And he still has a mat room at his parents' house. So, like, literally, I go home and he hits me up. He's like, yo, you want to work out? I'm like, yeah. Like sometimes it's like if he's listening to this, it's like, you annoy me sometimes, but like I do appreciate it. I do appreciate having that contact and being able to go and work out at his place, because I know we both get a lot out of it. So.
Well, you know, it's something I'm always interested in, you know, like where did that drive and that love for the sport come from? Because obviously, like, you guys, especially as teenagers, to take it upon yourself to always try to find an open room somewhere, to always want to, because wrestling is fun, but it's a different type of fun than saying, hey, we're going to go outside and, you know, throw a football back and forth, or hey, we're going to play video games. Like, it's fun, but it's also painful. Yeah. It's grueling, you know? So I think you either have to, there has to be a certain culture in place or a certain mindset, or maybe even just you were that type of kid that was drawn to the physical contact and the competition of it, because not every kid is going to seek that out. But I guess, you know, not every kid is going to become a D1 wrestler either.
That's true. But it was just, I really don't know why we did what we did. It was just like, we were just trying to wrestle all year round, because like sometimes you just didn't have the opportunity, and we're like, okay, what can we do? It's like, I remember literally a few times we'd go roll up to a place and not be able to get into the room. And then we're like, we're trying everything we can to get into this room. And then, all right, nope. Okay, what time is it? You know what? Let's try this place, you know, literally. And we drive 20, 30 minutes someplace else to go try to wrestle in this room, you know. And then even when we were, when I was in high school at Kiski, as soon as the year was over, they rolled up the mats and boom, our wrestling room was gone. And we're like, crap, this sucks.
You guys, I mean, it's a strong program at Kiski.
Oh, yeah, it is, and I mean, it had its it has its moments. But like back then, I just remembered like the AD. It's like I get it; they got to do stuff for different sports and everything like that. But we never really had a permanent wrestling room. I mean, our wrestling room was really nice when it was up, because 2 full mats, great, and school was lenient at the time to let people in, so we could get people in without any problem. Even during the summer, if we had a mat down, we'd be like, sweet, you know, let's wrestle. And then I just remember finding these, like, sometimes when our mats are rolled up, I remember finding these pads and we'd wrestle. We'd just call a couple guys up. Like, we had, obviously, like, we had, like, my brother and some of my boys that we lived there because we went to school there. But then we'd call up our buddies from around the area. Hey, go. Come to practice, like, just come in here. We have a mat, you know, let's wrestle, you know, just to get that different feels and trying to get the best wrestlers into one room. And I mean, now you got like young guns who's bringing in, holy crap, they got everything. But back then I feel like it was the Wild West of like, hey, let's go here, wherever, trying to get our just a group of guys together to wrestle and bring the most out of each other, period. So.
All right, so, you know, obviously you guys took it upon yourself to, you know, seek out competition, seek out practice. You know, obviously you built something special there because all of you guys went on to wrestle at the next level. Yeah. So you end up now from, you know, small town, Western PA, middle of nowhere, like you said, on your stop between Pittsburgh and Happy Valley. It's, you know, when you're saying, where are we? There we are. Yep. From there all the way down to UNC. So was it kind of culture shock at first?
Yeah. Just because, I mean, both high schools. I mean, being in public school, small school, being at Kiski, small school, 200 kids max for 9 through 12. And then going from that to like 30,000 people. Holy crap. Like, so.
Plus nicer weather.
Yeah,
I mean, the whole college experience, right?
Yeah, it was a culture shock for sure. Like I was contemplating whether I made the right decision or not. But then, once you get into that room and you're wrestling kind of takes over, kind of guides you, kind of keeps you in check, and just makes it not necessarily easy, because obviously wrestling's a grind, but it at least gives you a focus point of where you're going and everything like that. And it keeps you grounded. And it's like, okay, in order for me to wrestle, I have to do good in school. In order for me to wrestle, I have to do well socially. I can't be out doing stupid stuff all the time. So it was I struggled a little bit at first, but I got through it. And I mean, crap, I was 10-0 before losing a match in college. So I remember I wrestled, one of my first matches was Hunter Stever. I actually wrestled like in those first 10 matches.
So did you beat Hunter then?
I beat Hunter then.
Where'd you wrestle him at Vegas maybe?
No, it was, where was it? Wrestle for a Cure in Harrisburg.
Okay.
Yeah. And caught him and pinned him. No, he shot a head outside single, I remember, because Logan still talks about it. He's like, yeah, he shouldn't. We told him not to do that. And it's like he did that. He shot a head outside single. I sat the corner. He tried popping up, cradled him, rolled him through. But I pinned everybody that day. I remember that. We wrestled 4 times and 4 pins. I'm like, our coach was like, uh-oh. I think
we got somebody good on our hands here.
Exactly. So, because at the time, I got a lot of flack for going to UNC.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they were like, I had not necessarily and this is not trying to speak ill on them. It's like, because they just wanted the best for me, and they were just worried about the culture or the state of the culture of what UNC was at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously UNC is not what UNC was 5-6 years ago or whatever.
Yeah,
they've definitely done it.
Oh yeah,
it's Coleman and Ramos down there, right?
Yep, Coleman and Ramos. And I'm not saying it's like Kerry and CD were my coaches. I mean, they are great guys.
But maybe just whatever the upward trajectory that they had started, it's continued since then.
Yeah, so it really, what I would say is what they were trying to do really blossomed towards the end of their careers there. And then when Coleman took over, it was just a nice another shot, and it just exploded. Now they they just had a national champion, and it's like, awesome. Like, so I was the first one, I think, in like, first All-American they had for a while, since like the early 2000s. And they were like, okay, then I was a 2-time, then we had another one, and then we had 2 in a year, and then 3 in a year, and then last year they have a national champion. It's like, so I'd like to think
I think that you started that momentum.
Yeah, I'd like to think I helped that,
Hey, someone always has to come first, right?
Yeah, and but still, I just remember, like, it's not necessarily proving those guys wrong that said you shouldn't have went there. It was just like, it's like, have faith in me. Have, like, why don't you have faith in me? It's like, so whatever kid can go in wherever they want, as long as it's like, if they have the mental drive and capacity to do what they want to do, they can do it wherever they want to do it. So, I mean, go to the SoCon school, go wherever you need to go to get the job done.
Well, I think too that there has to be something, some type of responsibility placed on the individual of like, okay, well, if this type of culture you want, you can build that, even if it's not there yet.
Yep.
I mean, be a leader.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's your first year in the program. Sammy Sasso, who we talked about earlier, when he walked in day one, I mean, obviously we already have a tremendous culture at Ohio State, but he walked in day one as a leader. He didn't walk in and say, oh, well, I'm going to be a freshman, so I should probably just keep my head down, not say much. No, he was a leader from day one.
Yeah.
Any individual can do that. So if you're a recruit out there listening and you've committed somewhere that doesn't maybe have as strong of a wrestling, pedigree as what you'd hope for, maybe the culture is not as strong as what you want or what you expected, that doesn't mean that you can't be the Evan Henderson for your program to help facilitate that change and help maybe keep moving it in a positive direction. Because I'll tell you what, I guarantee the coaches want a strong culture.
Yep.
Maybe they just haven't had the right pieces in place.
Yeah, exactly. It's and I mean, I was a college coach for a year, and doing the recruiting and all that stuff. It's like, so I see that. I saw
Where
that
were you
side.
coaching at?
So I was a coach at Campbell University
Okay.
for a year, for a year and a half actually, and then I decided to obviously keep wrestling. So I was like, you know what, I want to throw myself into this a little bit more. But I got to see that side a little bit and how these kids react. You know, some kids, the destination is college, you know, and then it's like, oh, I won the lottery because I made it to college with wrestling, you know, versus some of the kids, they want to keep going and they grind and they get what they want. They get their All-American status. They get their national champion status. And then you got guys like me that haven't got it, didn't get what they wanted in college. So I'm still grinding it out. I'm still but I absolutely love this. So,
well, you know, obviously you had some success at the college level, you know, you're All-American twice, but I would argue you've already had, you know, more success on the senior freestyle circuit. I mean, you won some tournaments, you've been in contention, you know, I mean, you're in the mix at 65 kilos. Let's talk a little bit about, you know, about freestyle and your decision made, you know, to come here to Ohio, to the Ohio RTC. What was, you know, something, because after Campbell, then you went to Wisconsin. So, like, kind of give us a quick rundown of, like,
all right, so
what was the curvy road that brought you here?
I got called a gypsy the other day because it's like
Is that why you shaved the mustache?
Yeah. So I went from UNC and then to Campbell. And so I was there for a year and a half. And then there was probably a few months right there where I lived pretty close to, even though I worked at Campbell, I actually lived pretty close to the NC State room. So I was going in there and working out a lot too. Then I went from there. I went to a USA training camp, you know, out in Colorado Springs. And I was always buddies with Nazar Klaczynski, and I got to talking with him, and they were looking for RTC guys, and I'm like, okay, let me go check it out. So I went out there and I trained, and then for like a couple weeks, and then sure enough, they like, hey, do you want to actually be part of this crew? And I'm like, yeah. So
this is at the Springs.
This was at the Springs, you know, and I'm like, so I went out to Wisconsin, checked it out, liked it, you know. I'm like, you know what, this feels better. You know, I have a peer, I have somebody I can wrestle with that's probably like a little bit better than me at that moment. So I was like, okay, this is good for me. This is good. I'm getting my butt kicked a little bit. I can get better here. And signed a lease next day. Barry Davis resigns. So I was like, crap. Like, what am I going to do? You know, they bring in a new coach, Chris Bono. Mm-hmm. And Chris Bono, I mean, does what anybody new comes into a program. They try to, regardless if you're just started or been there 10 years, they kind of want to install their own things. And so they got rid of a lot of people.
Yeah, they want to put their pieces in place, or else they're not going to be successful if they don't have their people in place.
Exactly. And they've done what they've done. So, but I should have known something was up when I had a lot of people at the Open asking me, hey, what's going on? You want to I was not aware that I was maybe being let go before being let go. And so when was that year? That year, I was 18. And I got a call from Kendall Cross out of New York. And I'm like, okay, let me check this out. And I had some other options and stuff like that, but I was trying to figure out what's my next move. And I was talking to my family about it, and considering that we'd be working with Columbia and other, close to the Ivy League, it's like, why not? Why not have that good connection? Plus, why not try to live in New York City for a little bit, see what's it about? And sure enough, I mean, I went there. I went to train, and I walked into the room, and Frank Chamizo's sitting there staring me down. It's like, hey, you want to wrestle? I'm like, yeah. Come on, man. He's like a two-time whatever at that point. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. And having that accessibility to some of these top-level guys in the world that come into New York City to train or to go there for a vacation, but they do a little training on the side, and you get to see what they're about. And so that took me there, and I was there for 2 years until COVID. And then during COVID, I mean, the problem with everything was money situation. It's like, hey, they started everybody was cutting, and they sort of were on the thinking that they wanted to start the next cycle of kids through there, or next cycle of like athletes through there. So they let a couple of us go, and it wasn't based off of athletic performances or anything like that. It was just like, hey, we want to move on to the next set, and that's what they did. So I was kind of in limbo for a little bit during COVID, and so I was working for my dad, doing on the down low, we were redoing floors and remodeling jobs with him, and everything like that.
You think that was kind of like a soul searching moment for you? Like you're back in Western PA, doing blue collar work. It's kind of come full circle. Was there a moment then where you thought like, all right, maybe I'm done wrestling?
There definitely, because when I started, I didn't necessarily panic, but I was on the phone a lot trying to figure out like, hey, I'm looking for a new place. You got a place, blah, blah, blah. I went through a lot of different RTCs. A lot of my people that have come in contact throughout the years, just trying to see what's going on. I was even called up, my high school coach is like, hey, what do you got? Maybe I can become a teacher and a coach at the school, And I was lucky enough. I got the so here's something funny. So when I was at Kiski, I went, Steve Bozak's brother went to Kiski for a semester. And so I got to know Steve through him. Steve wrestled for Cornell. Steve also lived up in Weehawken, which was right next to Hoboken. I lived right there, when I was in the city. And I got to meet Steve, and I talked to him. I actually worked for his company for a second. It was train day. It's no longer there, but it was like a booking service for coaches and stuff like that. And I called him up. It's like, hey, what's Rob Cole's number? If you have it, if you don't mind, give me it. And obviously Rob Cole's a UNC alumni. I call him. He's like, come on up. I don't got any money for you, but I got a place for you to stay. And I'm like, that's a start. And so I was literally running. I called him the day I moved out of New York City. From when they let me go to when I was able to I called him when I was moving, and sure enough, he's like, hey, come on up. And and obviously that crew up there, it's pretty good. They have Yanni, Dake, Alt, Vito, Mike, and now their crew's even it's kind of split up, but as Rob went out to Stanford and everything like that, but that helped me a lot going up there, getting away from
how long were you up there?
Probably a year, about a year. And I knew it wasn't going to be a permanent thing just because of the situation. But I got a place to stay. I got a little bit of money, and I had great training. I had to work out with Yanni. I got to work out with Vito. I got to work out with some of those guys that are kind of staples there. And I think I grew as an athlete there. And it's not that I wanted to leave there when I left this summer when I came here. It was just circumstantial, and kind of I felt as if Columbus was going to be a better place for me, training and for the family that I want to grow. So I proposed last Christmas, so me and my fiance, we were she liked it out here. It was a little bit more city not that she's into cities and stuff like that. There was just a lot more.
Columbus is a great city though, right?
There was a lot more here to offer, and it was almost like a no-brainer once I got in. Jay Jaggers was like, man, I wasn't sure we're gonna get you, and I'm like, yeah, I just I was kind of waiting on the other people to see if there's any is there it's a business, you can't just wrestle for nothing anymore. And I wanted to see if there was anything.
Especially you want to start a family. I mean, you got to be able to support that family. Exactly. You can't just say, hey, I got great wrestling partners.
Yeah. So that was pretty much I don't want to say it was solely monetary based, but that was a big part of it. But coming here, I'm like, this place is awesome. Going into the wrestling room and having that huge room, not that a big room impresses me, but having a room full of killers is great. Like that was something maybe I haven't had since like forever. Like even though I like I'm not talking down about Cornell's program or anything like that, but it's like some of these guys, they stand out, you know, but there's something to be said about a Big Ten program, and like overall, like, and it's Ohio State. They're just like, who wouldn't want to go there? Who like, and I know it's like I don't even want to talk bad about Iowa, but same way, you walk into these rooms, there's something about it.
There's a mystique to it for sure.
Exactly, and you just like. This is wrestling. This is like you kind of grit your teeth and it's like I'm ready to get after it when you get into these rooms. And that was something that maybe I was missing in New York, in the city, and then maybe even a little bit before that. And now, I mean, I'm not doing too bad, right? Everybody's saying it's like I'd like to say it's like everybody's saying I'm getting better. I'm like, come on, guys, I've been this good. It's just now you're seeing it. So, but not to sound cocky or anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
So what's up next on the competition docket for you?
That's a good question because we're trying to find stuff. It's like there's not really any UWW stuff for the rest of the year. So it's probably going to be like early January, February. That's the next time I get to compete.
So we try to do like if there's any ranking stuff internationally, you try to do that.
Yeah.
I know Colin had talked about maybe in January.
Exactly.
Doing something.
Yeah, but as far as what's on the docket, there's literally nothing written in unless there's like some super secret like schedule out there somewhere that we don't know about. Like I know some of the Penn State guys are going over to Dagestan here in like at the end of the month for a competition, but like I didn't know about that until a couple weeks ago, and it wasn't like it's a free-for-all invite for USA guys. It's like you got to know somebody, you know?
Yeah.
So that's how some of these competitions are overseas. It's like if you can get over there, you can get over there, but you got to know somebody, which was nice when I was in New York City because I went all over the world.
Where was probably your favorite place to visit and compete at?
Favorite place to visit was probably Georgia, Tbilisi. Mm-hmm. Wrestling was good. Food was amazing. Like just friendly people. But if you're going to talk about just pure mecca of wrestling, it was Dagestan and Mahashkala. Like that place was.
So like when you talk about like walking in the gym here and it feels like this is the place where you lift weights.
Yeah.
When you go to Dagestan.
You walk in there and you're like, oh, this is what wrestling really is. It's not like it's a completely different feel than when you walk into the Ohio State room. You walk in those rooms and it's like you sit there and you stare and you see all these world champ, Olympic champ, bronze, this, that, like junior, like they're just, it's ridiculously like how many like world champions come from that region, and they're just like, oh, you're just a world champion in there. It's just a world champion, you know.
He's a one-timer.
Yeah.
Only one champion.
Only one time. It's like, I remember it's like somebody saying, anybody can be one-time champ. You got to be a two-time champ. I'm like, what? So.
I mean, it's probably the same way we look at like all Americans here. Like, oh, they only made the podium once, you know. Mm-hmm. You know, that's probably how they look at world champions in Dagestan.
Yeah. But I was over there. I'm trying to think. I was in Georgia for probably over a month, like collectively when I was living in New York, and then I was probably in Russia for collectively a month, because I remember my first international trip with that club. We went to Yakutsk in Siberia, where they had the World Cup there a couple years ago, mm-hmm. and that's all the way. You go all the way to Mongolia, and you go up 1,000 miles. Whew. And it snowed. I was actually over there on my birthday. It snowed on my birthday, and they said it was the first new snowfall of the year, or for the season. And I'm like, yeah, you gotta take me to the mall real quick. I'm getting cold. I had a light jacket, and it was snowing out. I'm like, I got a couple sweatshirts and a nice winter coat over there. But that was interesting to wrestle there and to see that culture, because it's not Europe, it's Asia. So I'm trying to think what else was like but Dagestan and Dagestan is something else. If I would like, if it's the wrestling is just, it's ridiculous.
And I mean, and the people are just, I mean, I hate to like stereotype, but people are tough. Like they're a hard people, right?
Very macho culture, you know, very like.
I feel like the grandmas there could like whoop my ass.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, like they're just tough, right?
Yeah, they are. Their whole society is just built off of that fighting culture. Like this, where we stayed at, it's like some of these kids don't go to school. Their school is the wrestling. It's like seriously, like I'm like, I remember the first day we got there, we had this kid came up. It's like, you Americans? I'm like, yeah. It's like, where's the wrestling? Where's the food? Like we were trying to figure out where we're going off, and then we started asking him. It's like, why aren't you in school? He's like, this is school. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's serious.
Like, you know, and then you go into these rooms. We go into the main room in the Hashkala, and there's hundreds of little kids just going, like, just wrestling. Like, I'm watching. It's not like here. These kids know how to wrestle from a young age, and I'm like, that's stuff that we can't do. And I'm like, that's stuff that, like, as a senior level athlete, I want to do, and I can't do that. And they're doing it when they're 10, 11, like, years old, which was very eye-opening, to say the least. But it was crazy over there. I loved it. Food was good too there too. It's like all the places we've been, all the places I've gone to, the food's been pretty good. So
I'll tell you, I always get interested too. Like sometimes I'll do like these deep dives on YouTube. I'll like start watching like Russian training videos and stuff, and see the strength training stuff they do over there. And like some of the stuff is traditional, you know, kind of powerlifting based, but a lot of it is stuff we think of as like, you know, functional training, you know, where the sleds and carrying things, and they're out there in the forest throwing boulders over their shoulder and stuff. And I mean, I always think it's good to have a good mix of all the stuff, you know, and those kids probably grow up doing that stuff from a very early age, you know, whereas our kids here, they grow up, you know, playing video games and doing whatever.
Well, they grow up working.
Right.
They grow up working, which is, I mean, how else you get that real, like I call it like real, like it's man strength, you know, it's like go lay block for a couple years, you know, go carry shingles up and down a ladder for a couple years. You're going to get strong, you know. Well,
you think of, you know, the workout we did today, look at the stuff we ended. What are we doing? We're emulating blue collar work. We're carrying heavy stuff. We're dragging a heavy sled. We're pushing stuff.
Yep.
You know, it's just so much of that has been taken out of our daily lives because our life is easy.
Yep.
I mean, I still chop firewood and stuff, but I do that because I want to, not because I have to. You know what I mean? Most of the stuff that we used to have to do, and then in many places in the world, they still have to do, we don't have to do anymore.
Yep.
Life is easy now.
Yep.
So now we have to try to find ways to put stuff like that back into our training to make us strong for real, not just strong in the weight room. You know, so now I know on the show we talk a lot about wrestling. We don't really, even though it's called the Wrestling Strength Podcast, we really don't talk about strength training that much. But I do like to, you know, ask every guest a couple questions, kind of strength training wise. So you think back to, you know, your development as a wrestler. Think of what is something, whether it's one exercise, one workout, or whatever, that you felt like was really helpful for you, that you felt kind of helped you become better at wrestling.
Oh man. Well, I can tell you in high school it was probably cleans.
So you guys were a big like Olympic lifting.
Yeah.
Clean
So
guy.
my coach, my wrestling coach was also like, he was just, it's like, his name's Joe Ross. He's a great guy. I love that guy. It's like he wants me to come back and run the program. But he's the one who got me like, okay, I knew how to lift, you know, quotation marks, I lift, you know, but he was like, okay, you're going to learn how to clean. Then you're going to learn how to do this. And you're going to get more that power, you know. But I was always strong, but he got me to like that next tier of strength, you know, and how it was just like, that's a complex I don't know if it's a complex move, a clean.
Yeah. So the cleans it's a complicated move too, which is, and it's I'm glad that you said cleans, because it's one of the questions I get a lot. Like, why don't you have your athletes do cleans? You know, people always ask that. And hang cleans are great, but it's also a skill movement. So like, let's say if you had a coach who was very proficient at teaching it, and you were able to learn the nuances of the movement, then it was probably very valuable to you, helped you a lot.
Yeah.
what I don't like is when you have, these high school coaches who don't really understand weightlifting, but they have a whole team of 30 kids, most of them who can't even do push-ups correctly, and they have them doing hang cleans. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. So really what you're trying to train with a hang clean, we're trying to train triple extension, be able to explosively extend the hips, the knees, and the ankle, pulling a weight fast, moving fast, You can still get that same thing from sleds, from med balls, from other things where there's a much lower barrier to entry, skill wise.
Yeah.
Which is, the reason that I don't use them. But I think, so I'm glad that you did bring cleans up, because that's one of the first questions I always get from parents.
It's like, if you have a good teacher, a good coach, I'd say, yes, you can probably implement that stuff under circumstances, like gradually or whatever you want to do. But for the run of the mill stuff, it's like, I'm not saying this is the run of the mill stuff. I'm saying like I don't do cleans that much anymore. Like if at all, because it hurts.
Well, I always say it like this: cleans are their own. It's its own Olympic event for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, no, I'm not anti-Olympic weightlifting. I just think it's one of those things you have to have a good coach who's proficient in it, and you have to understand the nuance of the technique. Versus, I know like when I did hang cleans in high school, it was all about I'm trying to put as much weight on as possible. And I look back at like how we did hang cleans. I think like it was like power reverse curls. Trying to really pull this weight around. We weren't really doing a hang clean. So.
Well, I think about it as I'm trying to think. It's like literally yank that thing up and drop underneath it. Well, then why don't you just do a front squat if you're really trying to, like, a front squat and digging it out? You know, it's like, do you need that front part as much, or you can just do like the shrug part, of that part.
Yeah, breaking it down into different shrug pulls and different things like that. I think are like maybe a way for coaches to maybe start implementing that, pulling off of blocks, doing that shrug pull, doing a front squat, doing the movement with a heavy med ball, because there's a lot more room for error when you do that. But then, so another thing I like to ask everyone, what do you think there's something that maybe it's coaches, maybe it's parents, maybe it's both. What do they need to stop doing with their athletes or their kids? What are they doing right now that they just need to stop?
Let them have fun. It doesn't need to be so serious. It's like,
quit taking the joy out of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I didn't run around all around Western PA looking for wrestling rooms because I needed to. I wanted to. If your kid wants to, there's a balance there. Where if your kid's sitting on the couch playing video games, like, maybe kick them off the TV once in a while. Go get them outside, get some fresh air. But like, if they don't want to wrestle, or if they don't want to do a particular sport all year round, I wouldn't let them. They're going to find what they want to do, and they're going to find what they're passionate about sooner or later. Some kids need a little bit more of a push than others to like kind of push them down a direction, but let them have fun. These kids that I see, like, if I see a young kid cutting weight, like, just because of my experience of cutting weight and all that stuff, that's not fun. That's not part. It's part of the sport, but it doesn't have to be part of sport at a young age. If he needs to cut weight at a young age to win, no, get a difference. Go do something else.
Yeah. At that age, get better at wrestling.
Exactly.
Work on getting strong, get in good shape, become work on your athleticism. I'm totally against kids cutting weight. Now, once they get to college, I understand it's different. You've been recruited for a weight class, whatever.
Yeah.
And even on some levels, high school to an extent. But
upper level high school, I'm talking about like, you're looking at the Blair Academy. I'm talking about the legit top level high schools. I mean, there's a lot of them in Ohio. There's a lot of them in PA, Jersey, all those places. Like, when you have like almost like a what I would say is a college team, just like a farm team getting ready to, yes, there is probably a little bit of that, but within reason, so. No,
it's something that's been in the culture of the sport for so long that, like, to get to the lowest weight possible. And I just think it's not as effective as parents think, especially at a young age. You're teaching the kid to hate the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, I had some kids in here last week they had like the national middle school duels coming up.
Yeah.
And it's like, these are kids, they're in here, like they can't do their strength training that day. They're in there riding the bike and they're all bundled up. They got to, and I'm thinking you're in 7th grade. You know what I mean?
I understand. Like I was thinking about this the other day though, and it kind of ties into what we wanted to talk about maybe a little bit with the whole Bishop McCourt issue in District 6, is that why cut the weight? Why go to the lower weight? So you can perform better, so you have more eyes on you. So you might get that scholarship that otherwise you might not get if you were up at a different weight and didn't do so well. Like,
see, my thinking is though that you can do just as well at a higher weight. Now I think you got to be in shape. You got to have your body fat at a certain level. Mm-hmm. But I don't believe that always getting to the next weight down is going to guarantee success. I don't believe it.
I know. I agree with that. But I think it's just something ingrained into the sport right now, and in a lot of other combat sports in general. It's like, what if I would cut weight? It's like right now for me, it's like I'm sort of in between. Like I could definitely wrestle 70, but I feel like I perform my best at 65. Is that cut a big cut? It hurts, but
what do you walk around at?
Between 55 and 60.
Yeah, so you're looking at what, almost a 15-pound cut?
Yep.
Yeah. And you're lean.
Yeah. I'm tall. I'm tall for the weight class.
Yeah. But you're also a grown man too.
Yeah.
And you're competing at an elite level.
Yeah.
You're competing internationally.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different animal than a kid in 6th grade cutting weight.
Yeah.
For the county tournament.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
They don't need to do that. It's like it's like that's where you say it's like sort of towards high school. It's like maybe college coaches ain't gonna be looking at you until they're looking at your freshman, sophomore, junior year, and then if you're not picked up by freshman, sophomore, junior year, and then you gotta do something your senior year to get picked up. Because I knew in my head when I was wrestling in high school, I knew it was really my junior or sophomore and junior year that I had to do well to get picked up by a college.
Yeah, you have to perform kind of early on to get on the radar.
Yes.
Because if you just come out of nowhere your senior year and like have this monster season, they're gonna look at it as a fluke. Like you got to already be on the radar.
Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of the reason why I wanted to get to Kiski, because they had just a better program, more funding for like athletics in general. And like my junior, senior year, we were able to go to Ironman. We were able to do my senior year. We did Ironman, Beast, Powerade, Super Quad, Southern Prep Slam, and then our national tournament, like a prep national tournament. So it was like, and I wouldn't have had that if I would have went to the other school.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have had the competition, you wouldn't have the exposure.
Exactly. Which brings me to this other point of the Bishop McCourt problem. Even though I know we were kind of
so we got there's a big situation going on there. There's the team, District 6 kind of came down on this team. Pretty heavy-handed in my opinion.
3 years for the kids.
Yeah, it's unheard of. Over a quote-unquote recruiting violation. Yeah. So bring me up to speed, because I don't know as much about how does it work in Ohio. You can move to other schools. There's open enrollment. It's kind of all convoluted, and kids jump around different schools all the time. So it's really no big deal here as long as you move into the district, or that your residence is in there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I think there has been schools that have gotten in trouble before with someone, he doesn't really live in that district or whatever. They've tried it. But for the most part, it's like, hey, if you, which is kind of how I think it should be. If I want my kid to go to this school and we're going to move there, or I'm going to get him an apartment or whatever it is, then he should be able to go there. Yeah. And that's pretty much how it is in Ohio. And a lot of districts do have what's called open enrollment, where any kid can come from anywhere. Yeah.
So
how is it in Western PA?
I don't know the exact rules. I just know that you can't just pick up and go to a different school for athletics. It's like that's going to be a violation. You have to sit out a year. And
so how can they prove whether it's for athletics or whether it's you just wanted to go somewhere else?
See, that's the thing. That's where it gets very you're subjective to what they're going to be.
Correct. I think couldn't you look at it and say, well, yeah, of course athletics is part of the equation, but that's not my main reason or whatever, It's
like the only reason, if I would have went to, so going back to something that happened around my era was We had Greensburg Central Catholic, which had amazing, like, obviously it's a better academic school than a lot of the surrounding school districts. And all these kids started you don't live in the district. It's just a Catholic school in Greensburg, and, you get bussed in. So the coach, quote unquote, recruited kids, slash the kids were recruiting too. Kids are recruiting kids to go to their school.
Like, hey, come wrestle. They're already wrestling together in their buddy's garage or whatever.
Exactly. And so the only big thing with this conversation right now is that the Bassetts, their dad, they were saying that they were bringing all these kids. They siphoned off all these kids from Forest Hills and everything like that. And obviously there's another backstory there, which, it's a mess. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, is you're going to give these kids 3-year suspension. The one kid's just lost all of his stuff. The other kid just lost the rest of his career if you're really going to uphold this ban. And I think that's ridiculous,
Well, and I think,
like, it's a private school too.
Yeah, and even without, and it's a private school.
Yeah.
So, like, I think anyone who goes to a Catholic school has probably been recruited to it on some levels,
yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
No one just decides out of nowhere, like, hey, we're going to, like, bus our kid or drive our kid to the school and pay money to go there. It's usually you're recruited somehow, whether it's through academics, whether it's through sports, whatever, their buddy goes there, whatever it is. So, and I don't know enough about the details of the case. I know Bo, I know his dad.
Yeah.
I really like Coach Bassett.
Yeah.
So I think that, regardless of what the specifics are, I just can't believe that they would come down and say, okay, we're not going to let this school wrestle for 3 years. It just seems unheard of.
All right. I could see them being like, to the dad, okay, you're not the coach, you're banned from such and such, whatever. Okay, I get that. I could live with that, but I can't necessarily live with those kids not wrestling. That is a disservice to them. And going back to what my point is why, okay, they say it's unfair to the other schools. It's like, it's unfair, but, like, you got to understand, it's like these kids are trying to go to college. They're trying to get recruited to college. It's like the same way when we were talking about the weight cut. It's like you want to get noticed, right? You want to be able to get noticed, right? So these kids are all, like, start to, like, migrate to one school because they want a good team. They want coaches to come in. They want to be seen. They want to be they want to make it to the next level. Well, I'm kind of looking at it. You're screwing with their trajectory
Correct.
into college.
Well, and I'm not just looking at it from, the Bassett standpoint or the Gibsons, the headliners of that group, but let's say I'm one of these other Forest Hill kids, and I've been going, Bassett's kind of my club coach or whatever. I go to these workouts at the house, and so Bassett now is the coach at a different school. His son's there. His son's the best kid in the world. Mm-hmm. He's a generational type talent. He's like a Spencer Lee type talent. Why wouldn't I want to go there? And why is that McCourt's fault? Why is that the program's fault that I, as a kid, want to go there because of the athletes they have in the room, because of the coach they have? I don't see how that's a bad thing. Like you said, the kid wants opportunities.
Yeah.
I'm a kid on the team that wants to get better. I want to be in a good room. I want to get noticed.
Look what I did.
Right. You did the same thing.
I went to a private school. So I think, I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen, obviously, but McCourt might try to be moving towards prep. Just go straight up prep,
And then they're outside of the PIAA, and they
Yep. And so they won't have any of that.
They'll be the same as like Wyoming Sem, Blair Academy, which Kiski, is that the same thing they do?
Kiski, yeah. So
they do like the national preps.
Yes. Yep. So.
Because then at that point, you can go to Ironman, you can go to Powerade.
With no jurisdiction whatsoever. It's like, even some high schools cap how far people can go or how many events. I don't know if you can cap private schools like that. There might be a higher athletic.
They might have a lot more leeway, though.
Yeah.
With it being a national governing body versus, whatever the District 6, which is over top, and I'm sorry, in any of these situations, there's going to be old vendettas and there's going to be kind of prejudices against, well, I don't like this team, I don't like that team, I grew up at this school. But people can have certain feelings, and I think whatever.
The votes, though, I'm thinking about the votes. The votes was like it was like 17-0 and 16-1 in favor of these bands, and I'm like, who are the coaches that were voting on this thing?
And that,
it's like,
so that's all the, is that how it works? All the coaches in the district get to vote on it?
I think there's a committee that's put together, and I'm not sure where they're from exactly.
See, to me, that sounds like bad blood. It sounds like they're mad.
They're just mad because they're getting a super team, and all these other teams like are not very good. It's like, it's like, I get it, but it's like, you can't.
I get it, but you're going to punish the kids?
You're going to punish the kids like that? Or you got to make them go back. Are you punishing the individual kid if he's trying to wrestle at McCourt, or are you going to punish the kid even if he goes back to his old school?
Right.
You gotta give him, like, I don't know exactly what the whole circumstance is going to be.
I mean, in some of the kids, I mean, maybe it's too late for them to go back to their old school. They can't. You know what I mean? They're just stuck in limbo.
Yeah. You look at Eric Gibson. You know, he lost last year. I thought he lost last year because he was going to transfer, right? And you sit out that year, right? He already did his time, and now you're not even going to let him wrestle.
Right.
And it's like,
luckily he's already on the radar. He already has a scholarship.
Yeah.
He's going to be going to Cornell.
But still, you miss a complete year of wrestling. You lose a chance to become a state champion. You know, the goal was to go to college, right, and wrestle and become Olympic or like go up through the ranks, you know, and everything like that. But you're still missing that the peak of high school. You know, the peak of high school.
You want to be able to, you know, when you come home for Thanksgiving, to see people like you're Eric Gibson state champion. You want to be on the wall in the local tavern or whatever it is. Yeah, it's taken away from him.
Yep, exactly. It's sad.
I might have to have them on a show here soon to kind of get the. I don't know what stage they are in the arbitration or whatever, but I might have to get them on to kind of. I want to learn more details about it.
Yeah,
you know?
It's like I don't even know. It's like I know some of the backstories, and it's not necessarily. It's not something that I want to. I don't think I'm at liberty to share, just because I don't even know what's true and what's. Well,
yeah,
true.
We don't want to start the gossip.
Yeah. So it just still. Let them wrestle. You know, I can't believe it's like you're going to take a complete season away from them. You know what? You can take away the coach. Take away the coach. But don't hurt the kids like this. You know, the one kid already sat out.
Right.
A year. You gotta let them, like, okay, maybe they can't go to team states, whatever. Let them individually wrestle. You know.
Well, I mean, look at Russia. They got they got to wrestle under. You know what it was like? They're like basically wrestling unattached. They're still Russians. You know what I mean?
Russians, yeah.
They still get to go to the World Championships. They still get to qualify.
Which,
you know what I mean?
Now to think of it, I think that's how it's probably going to end up going. They're probably going to be able to wrestle, but they won't be able to do team stuff.
Well, I guess if that happens, that's not as bad as the original scenario of them having to sit out. But yeah, let them be unattached assassins and you know,
it's like
they might win an unattached team title.
Yeah, so it's like the other team, whatever team comes in second, actually wins it. I don't know. But still, they should be able to wrestle. It's sad.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably do a whole episode on this alone, but we don't want to dive into it too far. Evan, I'm glad you're here in Columbus.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're here at the Ohio RTC. I enjoyed working. There's only our second workout together. Mm-hmm. I mean, our first one was, you know, a shoot for Rudis.
Yeah,
you know, you're big time. You know, so.
Well, I'm not big time. It's like also where it's like I'm looking at the camera right now. It's like, so on top of working for the Ohio RTC, I also work with Rudis. Not with them, I work for them. Literally, like I'm a video editor for those guys. Not really. I got thrown into that. You know, not necessarily thrown. It was just like I go in there. I interviewed, and then he's like, when can you start? I'm like, today. He's like, first day I walked in, I worked a couple hours, and it's like, we launched an app and here's a plugin, Rudis Plus, get it. It's actually pretty good. The
strength and conditioning content by Coach Myers, releasing soon. Just putting that out there.
Yeah. We're getting that. It was like, I think, I don't know how far along we are. I think we got.
I heard the video editor needs to kind of step up his production a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'm not in charge of that one. But it's fun. I get to watch a lot of wrestling. So it's a lot of. If anybody knows Doc Bennett, I get to watch all of his archive stuff. So he has thousands and thousands of hours of wrestling, international, all that stuff and it's going up on the app. Plus all the other documentaries we have and stuff like that too.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I'm kind of biased in many ways, but I know you were a nomad for very long, but I don't think there could be a better situation than you could come into Columbus, great city, you know, Ohio State's room down there, the Ohio RTC, one of the best rooms in the world. You know, obviously the RTC and Ohio State's relationship with Rudis, the relationship with me, with Old School Gym, with Max Effort. I mean, there couldn't be a better situation for you to really thrive and reach your potential. So I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
You know, where can anyone who's watching, where can they follow along at?
So you can follow. I don't have a Twitter, but I have an Instagram. It's Hendo65kg. Hendo65kg.
Give them a follow today.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks again for having me on. This is awesome. I love this.
All right, man. I appreciate you.